بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين جل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. On the page 417 of Al-Fiqh al-Istidlali, Sheikh Irwani studies the situation of a traveler that returns home, returns watan, or where is going to be for 10 days or more. Al-Musafir إذا حضر. This is different from what we had before, which was Al-Hadir إذا سافر. Someone was in a home and then travels. خب. Normally what they say is that if he returns before Zawal, and before midday, before Zuhr Shara'i, if he returns before Zuhr and has not committed muftarat, has not eaten, for example, then he fasts. If he doesn't want to fast, before reaching home, he can eat or drink, but if has not eaten or drunk and no muftar has taken place and he arrives home before Zuhr, he must fast. But if he arrives after Zuhr or arrives before Zuhr and has eaten something, then of course cannot fast. But it is mustahab still from this point on to do imsak, not sawm, but imsak. Just avoid muftarat, although it is not counted as fasting. إذا دخل المسافر بلده فإن كان قبل الزوال ولم يرتكب المفطر. There are two conditions. Both of them should be there. If this return is قبل الزوال and لم يرتكب المفطر لزمه الصوم, then must fast. وإلا, otherwise, which means those two conditions are not met. Either the first is not met or the second or both. So, for example, comes after Zuhr or comes before Zuhr and has eaten. If it comes after Zuhr and has eaten, both conditions have been missed, then it's more obvious, of course. But even if one of them is not there, then fasting is not possible, although it's mustahab to do imsak. وإلا, otherwise لزمه الإفطار وإن استحب الإمساك إلى الغروب. So iftar is necessary, means he cannot consider this as fasting, but it's mustahab to just act as if he is fasting. The late Sahib Jawahir Rizwanullah Ta'ala alayh, he says this is a fatwa that we don't know people disagreeing with, except some cases that he mentions. Otherwise there is no disagreement. قد ذكر في الجواهر أنه لم يجد خلافا في ذلك إلا من صاحب الغنية, number one, وإلا من الشيخ, and Sheikh Tusi, في النهاية. Other than these two cases, Sahib Jawahir says, I have not found any disagreement. Sahibul Ghunya says فإنه Sheikh Sahib Jawahir says that Sahib Qunya أطلق استحباب الإمساك للمسافر إذا قدم أهله ولم يقيده بما بعد الزوال. He says that imsak is mustahab for a traveler when returns his family, his home, and doesn't say this imsak is mustahab if he arrives after Zuhr. Even before Zuhr, he says it's mustahab to do imsak. So it means that he doesn't consider fasting in the morning wajib. If he arrives in the morning and has not eaten, drunk, etc., we say he must fast. But he says whether it's morning or afternoon, imsak is mustahab. So it means fasting is not wajib. This is one exception. The second exception is Sheikh Tusi Rizwanullah alayh in Nihaya al-Nihaya فإنه أطلق وجوب الصوم على المسافر إذا قدم أهله ولم يرتكب مفطرا. This is opposite. Sheikh Tusi says if this person arrives home and has not committed muftarat, must fast, even if he arrives 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., a little before Maghrib. If he has not eaten, drunk, he must fast. Normally, as we said, they say if he arrives after Zuhr, he cannot fast. But this is what can be understood from Sheikh in An-Nihaya, not in all his books. هذا من حيث الفتوى. So, from fatwa perspective, not from hadith perspective, which is the basis of fatwa. We will talk about hadith later. But from the point of view of fuqaha's, fatwas, the great majority say what we said at the beginning. If he arrives before Zuhr and has not done muftarat, must fast. If he arrives after Zuhr and in any circumstances, if it is after Zuhr, even if it hasn't not been drinking, etc., cannot fast. The only thing is that imsak is good. 2 conditions for morning: arriving in the morning and not eating anything, you must fast. Otherwise, if you arrive in the afternoon or in the morning and you have already eaten, no fasting. This is very established view. There are only 2 exceptions that Sheikh Sahib Jawahir has said. خب هذا من حيث الفتوى. But what about hadith which are basis? وربما يصعب استفادته بتمامه من الروايات. Maybe it's difficult to understand all this from hadith. Why? Because hadith are different. فإن منها ما يوحي بفتوى المشهور ومنها ما يوحي بخلافها، يعني بخلاف فتوى المشهور. Some of the hadith يوحي يعني suggests, brings to mind the same fatwa of mashhur, and some bring to mind something different from mashhur. خب أما ما توحي بالموافقة فهي أولا موثقة أبي بصير Abu Basir al-Asadi in his موثقة. The hadith reads as this: سألته عن الرجل يقدم من سفر في شهر رمضان. I asked him about a person that comes from a trip, a journey, in the night, in the month of Ramadan. In the month of Ramadan, يقدم arrives. Means arrive home. فقال إن قدم قبل زوال الشمس فعليه الصيام ذلك اليوم ويعتد به. If he arrives before Zawal, before Zuhr, he must fast that day, and this is counted. You have the reference also from Wasail al-Shia here in the footnote. خب, you see, hadith is about arriving home, arriving to your family home in the month of Ramadan, and the answer says if it is before Zuhr, he must fast. يتدل على وجوب الصوم إذا كان القدوم قبل الزوال, because he said إن قدم قبل زوال الشمس. ولا تدل على لزوم الإفطار لو كان القدوم بعده, but doesn't say that if he arrives after Zawal, he must break. It's silent about that. إن قدم قبل زوال الشمس فعليه الصيام ذلك اليوم. Although it suggests that if it is not before Zawal, the Sawm is not necessary. It maybe by implication can be understood. والإشكال عليها باللحاظ ما قبل الزوال أيضا لاحتمال كون المقصود منها وجوب الصوم حتى على تقدير ارتكاب المفطر مدفوع. Someone says not only this hadith is not talking about afternoon, it also has problem for the morning, when someone comes back in the morning. Why? Because he just says if someone comes before Zawal فَعَلَيْهِ الصِّيَامِ. What about if he has already eaten? So if someone says that this hadith even for ma qabla zawal has problem, because it can mean that Sawm is necessary hatta ala taqdir irtikab al-muftir, even if he has committed muftarat. خب, this ishkal is rejected, madfu'un. Why? Because that was obvious. For sure, it doesn't want to say that if he comes in the morning and has already eaten, then it is fine. It's for the person who has not eaten. Then we want to see if he arrives before Zuhr, after Zuhr, what happens. The question from the beginning should be restricted to the people who have not committed muftarat. بأن الصيام لا يتصور مع ارتكاب المفطر. If this person has already committed muftar, has eaten lunch on the way, now to say, I want to fast or I shouldn't fast, what is my situation? If he has eaten, no problem that he cannot fast. If he has not eaten, then we say, okay, if it is before Zuhr, he should fast. على أن قوله عليه السلام يعتد به شاهد آخر. So, we said يعتد به, he should count this, he should consider this as important. Okay? How can someone eat or do other muftarat and then we say he considers that day as fasting? على أن قوله يعتد به شاهد آخر is another evidence. وإلا فهل يحتمل الاعتداد بما أفطر عليه عمدا? Can we say you can consider as fasting even if you have already eaten deliberately because you were musafir? So وعليه فدلالتها في حدود ما قبل الزوال تامة. So this hadith of Abu Basir is complete in its dalala, in its indication, in its reference, that if you arrive before Zuhr and have not eaten, drunk, etc., you fast. The second hadith, Sahihatu Muhammad ibn Muslim. سألت أبا عبد الله عليه السلام عن الرجل يقدم من سفر بعد العصر في شهر رمضان. Muhammad ibn Muslim says, I asked Imam Sadiq about someone who comes from Safar, from journey, after Asr, after noon, in the months of Ramadan. فيصيب امرأته حين طهرت من الحيض أي يواقعها. When he comes back in the afternoon, his wife was also not fasting and just her period finished. Can they have marital relation? The question, as you see, it's not directly about fasting. The answer also is لا بأس به. It's not about fasting, it's about أيواقعها. But it seems that it was clear that if he arrives in the afternoon, he cannot fast. If he had the duty of fasting, the person would not have asked. And Imam also, at least if the person didn't remember, Imam would say, he is fasting, he must fast. How can he have marital relation? يتدل على جواز الإفطار إن كان دخل بلده بعد الزوال. Okay, so at least shows that iftar is permissible. Maybe we say iftar is necessary, or you say not to fast is necessary, and pretends that he is fasting in the sense that observes protocols and etiquettes of fasting. So تدل على جواز الإفطار جواز على الأقل إن كان دخل بلده بعد الزوال. If you say, but this was بعد العصر, not بعد الظهر, you say, yes, the question is about بعد العصر, but it doesn't make difference. We do إلقاء خصوصية. We say, for example, someone says, someone arrived at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. is not important. 1 p.m., 3 p.m. is this. So Asr is also not by itself important. No one said Asr is the point that if you arrive before Asr, you fast. After Asr, you don't know. Asr has no khususi, has no particularity. Particularity is for Zuhr, for Zawal. بل لعل السؤال ليس عن حيثية الصوم. Maybe أصلا the question was not about fasting. وإنما عن حيثية جواز المواقعة في شهر رمضان. The question maybe was about just having marital relation, because in the month of Ramadan, when you are fasting, you must not do this. ومعه فلا دلالة للصحيحة بلحاظ أي من الشقين. So if we say it's not about fasting and it's only about possibility of having marital relation, then it doesn't say anything about fasting, whether it's before Zuhr or after Zuhr. The third hadith, رواية السماع إلى أن قال. Sama'at ibn Mihran quotes from Imam alayhi salam, إن قدم بعد زوال الشمس, if he arrives after Zuhr, أفطر ولا يأكل ظاهرا, but he doesn't eat, so he's not fasting, but ظاهرا, on the surface he acts like people who fast, he observes إمساك. وإن قدم من سفره قبل زوال الشمس, but if he arrives before Zuhr from trip, he returns before Zuhr, فعليه صيام ذلك اليوم إن شاء. It's upon him to fast that day if he wants. This insha'a has caused some discussion. If insha'a was not there, it was clear. إن قدم من سفره قبل زوال الشمس means, of course, before eating and drinking. فعليه الصيام ذاك اليوم. He must fast that day. He has arrived in the morning, in 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 9 o'clock, has not eaten or drunk, etc. So he must fast. فعليه الصيام ذلك اليوم. But here it has inshallah. Inshallah, we will explain what does it mean. وقد يشكل بأن ظاهرها التخيير إن وصل قبل الزوال لا الإلزام. Sometimes this objection is made that what is the apparent meaning of this hadith is that if he arrives قبل الزوال إن قدم سفره قبل زوال الشمس, this hadith is saying صيام إن شاء, يعني تخيير, يعني if he likes he fasts, if he doesn't like he doesn't fast, does another day. يشكل بأن ظاهرها التخيير إن وصل قبل الزوال لا الإلزام. There is no compulsion in fasting. خب, the answer is this. Some people have said in insha'a doesn't mean after he arrives. It means that when you have not yet reached home, you are still on the road. Maybe you are in another city. You have the choice to eat or drink. You don't need to keep fasting till you arrive home. Especially, for example, people who are traveling by plane, and if they go against the clock, so sometimes it can become very long. Suppose 5-6 hours in the plane, or even more, 8 hours, 10 hours, and then by the time they arrive it's morning, and still they have to continue. If it's a summer, it'll be long. You have choice. You don't need to avoid eating and drinking. You can eat and drink, and when you reach even before Zawal, you don't fast. If you arrive after Zawal, of course, it's obvious. So, قد يجاب بأن ظاهرها التخيير. But what kind of تأخير? Always you have تأخير? No. التأخير ما دام المكلف في الطريق. As long as the mukallaf is still on the way, has not reached home, has choice. بين ارتكاب المفطر, can do something, for example in the plane. فلا يجب الصوم وبين الإمساك, or not to eat and drinking. فيجب, then if he arrives before Zuhr, then he must fast. So when we say you have تخيير, فالتخيير باللحاظ المقدمة, يعني you have تخيير of doing something that then you must fast, or تخيير of doing something that you cannot fast in this way. لا باللحاظ نفس الصوم, not that you are in a situation that in the same situation you can fast, or you say I don't want to fast. No. If you have arrived before Zuhr and have not eaten or drunk, you must fast. There is no option. And if you have eaten or drunk you cannot fast. There's no option. وَإِلَّا لَقَالَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ لَهُ بَدَلَ عَلَيْهِ. One evidence also is that Imam says عَلَيْهِ الصِّيَامُ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ. Doesn't say لَهُ صِيَامُ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ. عَلَيْهِ is suggesting that it's necessary. So why he said insha'a means if he doesn't eat in advance, then when he comes عَلَيْهِ الصِّيَامُ. Sheikh Irwani says, but أن ظاهرها أن التأخير يثبت بعد الدخول قبل الزوال. He says, no, it seems to me that it wants to say that even after reaching home before Zuhr, there is choice. For someone who has not eaten and drunk and reaches home before Zuhr, he says, I understand that there is choice. There is no necessity of fasting. ألا أن ظاهرها أيضا وجوب صيام ذلك اليوم إن شاء صومه لا إن شاء الإمساك فيه. Of course, he must fast that day if he decides to fast, not if he decides to just do imsak. وإلا لزم الاستخدام الذي هو مخالف للظاهر. Otherwise, then we have to interpret in the way which would be different from Zahir. If you see the hadith, just I moved the page. So, of course, you may not agree, or you may agree with Sheikh Irwani, but he doesn't accept that insha'a is for the way, on the way. He says someone who arrives before Zuhr, he has choice. Okay? أن التأخير يثبت بعد الدخول قبل الزوال. He arrives before Zuhr, he has choice. ألا أن ظاهرها أيضا وجوب. خب, he has choice, but the apparent meaning of the text is that if he wants to fast, then that fasting is necessary. It doesn't say عليه الإمساك. It says عليه صوم. So it's a decision you make. You have initial choice, not that throughout the day you can always shift. This takhir is badwi. In the beginning, you can decide to fast, not to do imsak. You can decide to fast, and then fast is necessary. Or you can say, I don't want to fast, then fast is not necessary. But you make this choice at the beginning. But if you say that fasting here means just imsak, it's not acceptable. Then you may say, if fasting is an option, why we have alayhi? He said, alayhi siyamu dhalik. He said, no problem. Because either you say alayhi means that he has not eaten, he has decided to arrive without eating, drinking, so he must fast. Or you say he arrives, he has not eaten, and he has choice at the beginning. In any case, after some time, then it becomes necessary. Takhir is at the beginning. إذ المقصود إنشاء الإمساك قبل القدوم. If he decides to avoid muftarat before arriving, فعليه الصوم بعد القدوم. Then after he arrives, he must fast. خب, إذا كان كافيا فهو كاف على التقدير الآخر. If you accept this kind of interpretation, then according to the interpretation which says that on the way he has choice is the same. In any case, zaman is different. What is important is this: إذا شاء الصوم بعد القدوم لزم الصوم بعد المشيئة. If he chooses to fast after arriving, then after he exercises his choice and chooses to fast, then fasting becomes necessary. The other interpretation was that on the way, if he decides not to eat and drink, then when he arrives, he must fast. Here it says when he arrives has a period of a little chance of choice. If he chooses to continue without eating and drinking, then he must fast. خلاصه, he says الحاصل أن الدلالة الرواية بلحاظ ما قبل الزوال ضعيفتون. The indication, the reference of this hadith for قبل الزوال is weak because of these issues that we mentioned, that insha'a, etc. It makes it difficult. But what about sanad? This is what dalala. والإشكال بإضمارها. But if someone says even sanad of this hadith is problematic because it's mudmar, doesn't mention the name of the person that Abu Basir is quoting from. This ishkal, if in sanad, if you mean this ishkal of being mudmar, this is not a problem. We have said before, sama'a and I said Abu Basir, I meant sama'a, the last one, riwayatu sama'a. Sama'a, we had it before. Sama'a is a person that we can accept his mudmarat. I was looking for something about Sama'a, and I came across this beautiful point by one of our contemporary scholars, Ayatollah Tabrizi rahmatullah alayh. So he has made a very good survey about Sama'a, and he says that according to Rajaliyun, ulama or Rajal, Sama'a witnessed Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam. He has quoted many hadiths from these two great Imams, to the extent that just Sama'a without Ibn Mihran, because it's Sama'at ibn Mihran, just Sama'a with this name, in Kutub Arba'eh we have 925 hadiths from Sama'a. And Sama'at ibn Mihran, with addition of Ibn Mihran, we have 222. How difficult it was for them, without computer, all these things, to do this kind of investigations and surveys. 222 in Kutub Arba'eh. We have sanads that Sama'at ibn Mihran is included. That Sama'ah without Ibn Mihran is the same as Sama'at ibn Mihran. It cannot be someone else. And Sama'at ibn Mihran is very much verified by Rajaliyun. And we see our ulama have relied on his hadith, have given fatwa based on his hadith. And despite hundreds of hadiths that we have from Sama'a, there is no place that he quoted from non-imam. This is very interesting. So Sama'a is a reliable narrator, and it's very, very unlikely that he quotes non-ma'soom. Why he didn't mention the name? This is a beautiful point. They say the reason is that he used to quote some hadith one after the other. And then this was his style, that in the first case he was mentioning the name, and then in the other ones he was just saying sami'tuhu, sa'altuhu. He was using pronoun. If you just take the second or third hadith, sami'tuhu, sa'altuhu, you don't know who was this person. Was it Imam? Was not Imam? Was it Imam Baqir? Imam Sa? But he has already mentioned in the first hadith. This is not muzmal. This is a problem when hadiths are separated. Those who have more ability to do research, they can find them together. So he has many hadiths from, for example, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam, and Sama'a himself mentions the name of Musa ibn Ja'far. But, for example, Sheikh Tusi in Tahdhib al-Ahkam doesn't mention Musa ibn Ja'far. It becomes Muzmara. But it was initially not Muzmara, it was mentioned. Also, there was a custom among ulama that narrators used to get together and dictate hadith imla for the writers. For example, one of the narrators, Hassan ibn Bashar, used to have such majalis in Kufa. So he used to say, Sami'tuhu an Ja'far ibn Muhammad alayhim as-salam. Yes, or Sa'altuhu. Okay? But then when they were dictating several hadiths, they were not mentioning the second and third hadith the same name if it was the same. If it was different imam, they would have mentioned, but sometimes. So this issue of izmar for sama'a is not a big issue, although Ayatollah Khui has problem, but some other fuqaha, they don't have problem. And it's quoted from Ayatollah Tabrizi also. This Ayatollah Tabrizi was a great scholar. It's different from another great scholar who was a student of Sayyid al-Khui, Ayatollah Tabrizi. We had two Ayatollah Tabrizi. Is there any other issue with sanad of this hadith? Izmar is not a problem. نعم لم تثبت وثاقة علي بن السندي. In this hadith, we have another person in the chain whose name is Ali ibn Sindi. And Ali ibn Sindi, we have not been able to verify him. وتوثيق نصر بن الصباح له لا ينفع. Nasr ibn Sabah has verified. He said Ali ibn Sindi is reliable, but he himself is not verifiable. So we can accept verification if the person who verifies himself is already established. Hadith 4. Sahihatu Yunus قال في المسافر يدخل أهله وهو جنب قبل الزوال ولم يكن أكله. About a traveler that returns family and when he returns home, he is junub. He needs ghusl. When does he return? قبل الزوال. Has he eaten? No. He's junub, but he has not eaten. ولم يكن أكل. The answer is فعليه أن يتم صومه ولا قضاء عليه. عليه أن يتم صومه. He must complete fasting of that day, and there is no qadha. Of course, it says يعني إذا كانت جنابته من احتلام. He has become junub because he was sleeping, for example, and then he became muhtalim. Not that he has deliberately done something during the day of months of Ramadan to become junub. خب ولولا افتراض الجنابة لكانت دلالتها بلحاظ ما قبل الزوال تامة. If we didn't have this issue of janaba, it was very straightforward, because it says he returns قبل الزوال ولم يكن أكل. Yeah, the problem is that لم يكن أكل, but he's junub. This makes it difficult. لولا افتراض الجنابة لكانت دلالتها باللحاظ ما قبل الزوال تامة. It was very good evidence or reference for someone who returns before zawal. ولكن لعل المقصود ما إذا كانت عن احتلام كما ذكر في الذيل أو المقصود تخصيص ما دل على مفترية الجنابة وأن للمسافر خصوصية. Maybe what is meant is that he is junub, but as we have in the end of the hadith, through ihtilam, means unintentionally mani has come out. For example, was sleeping, or maybe even, for example, he in the night became junub and then woke up after fajr, for example, couldn't fast, couldn't do ghusl or whatever. Anyway, out of control. Or al-maqsood, or maybe this is an exception to the hukm about, the ruling about janaba. We said before that one of the muftarat is janaba in the months of Ramadan. But maybe for musafir there is khususiyya. Maybe musafir, if becomes muhtalam, it's okay, for example. Maybe that ruling is to be restricted. تخصيص ما دل على مفترية الجنابة. Whatever indicated that janaba is muftir now has to be restricted. And we have to say أن للمسافر خصوصية. Musafir has a special ruling. It doesn't fall under general ruling of janaba being muftir. خب, this is all about قبل الزوال. نعم هي لا تدل على حكم ما بعد الزوال. Doesn't talk about بعد الزوال, because it says قال في المسافر يدخل أهله وهو جنوب قبل الزوال ولم يكن أكل فعليه أن يتم صومه. لعل حكمه التخيير. Maybe we can say that at least after zawal, it's not wajib, at least it's mukhayyar, but it's not saying anything. What we know is that in the morning alayhi an yutimma sawma, so in the afternoon should not be necessary to fast or must not fast. But we have also a problem of sanad. وقد يشكل بأنها مقطوعة سندان. There is a cut, there is disconnection in the chain. وجوابه أن تكرار لفظ قال يدل على أنها مضمرة. So there is no قطع, it is مضمرة. قطع is when something is not mentioned in the middle, for example, but maybe this is مضمرة, the last person was Imam, but the name is not mentioned. So it becomes مضمرة فيجيء فيها ما يقال في المضمر. Then whatever we say in مضمرات normally we say it depends on the first narrator in the chain. If the first person is like Zurara, or what we said about Sama' or Ibn Abi Umair, these are the people that they don't quote except from Imam, then that's okay. Also, Sheikh Saduq Ridwanullah Ta'ala alayh has mentioned the same hadith through his chain of narrators from Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. There is no izmar. Sheikh Saduq rafaha bisanadi an al-Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi as-salam. So sanad is not a problem. Al-ishkal al-muhim, the main problem is that it doesn't say anything about after zuhr, after zawal. اختصاصها بما قبل الزوال. It's limited before zuhr. Doesn't say anything about after zuhr. The fifth hadith is رواية أحمد بن محمد. قال سألت أبا الحسن عليه السلام عن رجل قدم من سفر في شهر رمضان ولم يطعم. لم يطعم is not correct. لم يطعم. لم يطعم means didn't feed. لم يطعم didn't eat. So someone returns from trip in the month of Ramadan and has not eaten anything, and it is قبل الزوال. He read قدم. This قبل الزوال is for قدم, arrives before zawal. Imam Kazim alayhi salam said يصوم, he must fast. خب دلالتها بلحاظ ما قبل الزوال واضحة. It answers the question about before zuhr. لكن في سندها سهل بن زياد. But in sanad there is problem because there is Sahl ibn Ziyad, which is not possible to be verified. ومن عرض هذه الروايات التي توحي بموافقة المشهور اتضح أن ما تمت دلالته مختصة بما قبل الزوال. So we said part of the hadith are suggesting fatwa mashhur. Okay? But as you see, these which support fatwa mashhur, they are all about qabla zawal. They don't say something about ba'da zawal. اما روایت السماعه فدلالتها بلحاظ ما بعد الزوال لا تتم الا بناء على التفکیک بین فقرات الروایت الواحده في الحجیه. Then روایت السماعه, as we said before, if we want to accept it, then we have to divide it. This part we accept, this part we don't accept, and this is a problem. That to say the same hadith, part of it is hujjah, part of it is not hujjah. Also there is issue with sanad. Not the issue of izmar, but the other issue. You know, we said here that Visaqat Ali ibn Sindi is not established. So far the discussion is this. Fatwa of mashhur is if Musafir returns home before Zawal and has not done muftarat, must fast. If arrives after Zuhr or before Zuhr and while has eaten, no fasting. Imsak is good, mustahab. But we have hadith to support the first part about before Zawal. Now let us, inshallah, in the next session, study other hadiths that may appear against fatwa mashhur. We will discuss, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Jazakumullah khairan.
Wa iyyakum. I just have a quick question, if there's time.
Yes.
So, at what point does the person make a decision to continue or not continue his fast? You know, is it implied in these pieces of evidence that it's always after returning home from the journey that the person makes a decision? Because if they do make a decision while they're still on the journey, then would that be binding, or they're able to change their mind after they return home?
If they return home before Zohar and have not eaten or drink, it's binding. As soon as arrives home. If, for example, has to make niyyah of 10 days, a place that he wants to, then whenever he makes the niyyah of 10 days, because maybe he's not sure he's going to stay, but if it's watan, he has not eaten or drink, as soon as he arrives, he must make the niyyah. He can make the niyyah before that, when I arrive, you know, my fasting starts, but he cannot delay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Basically, you are like someone who is in the watan at the time of Fajr. Yeah, at the time of Fajr, what can you do? You must start fasting. You cannot delay. Now also, as soon as you arrive home, you are in the time of Ramadan, and you must make niyyah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. التماس دعاء.
محتاجين.
التماس. خدا حافظ.